Hello, everybody. I'm Alexis Brink. I'm a TAP, and I'm here today with Laurie and Jonathan Weiss. And it's a pleasure to be here with you. They are both teaching a workshop together on April 20th for NATAA at 12 till 2 Eastern Time. And the title of the workshop is Healing the Inner Child Revisited. So that's a very wonderful, interesting topic for all of us. And I just want to tell you a little bit about Laurie and Jonathan. They are both PhDs and TSTAs, and they have been teaching members of ITAA for over 5 decades. They are among the pioneers of developmentally based TA therapy. They are well known for their book, Recovery from Codependency, their work with relationships, and their more recent work with Logosynthesis, which we will talk a little bit about. And so very welcome to both of you.
Thank you. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you.
My first question is to Jonathan. What brought you to transactional analysis?
When I was a psychology intern, the book Games People Play came out. And I read it and fell out of my chair laughing and decided I wanted to learn more because it sounded really interesting. So I then read TA in Psychotherapy by Eric Byrne and started using it with clients. And I was in Chicago at the time. And I got word of a Chicago area study group, and there was going to be a TA 101 given there by David Kupfer and Bob Goulding, which I went to. I was not only blown away, but David Kupfer cured me of my doctoral dissertation with one transaction, and I was hooked for good.
Which was, just briefly?
I had been obsessing about it, and he was doing a practice group, and I was in it. And so what I was presenting was that I wasn't getting anywhere with my dissertation because I was obsessing about it. And I was obsessing about obsessing. And I went on like that. And he interrupted me and said, "John, what? Who's going to do your dissertation?" I said, "I am." He said, "That's right. Who else wants to work?"
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
I had never said I was going to do it. I was just being adapted and following all the steps, but I had never made a commitment to doing it, and he exposed that.
Mm-hmm. So it sparked your creativity.
And so following that, I was in the study group, and one day I invited Maury Hamowitz to come to the mental health center where I was working and present TA there. And while he did that, I was in the audience for him, and I thought, I could be doing this. How come he's doing it and getting paid for it and I'm not? And so the next time there was an opportunity to do a TA 101, Natalie Hamowitz said, "Who wants to do it with me?" And while everybody else was looking at their credentials, I raised my hand and said, "Me." And it's been a long, strange trip ever since.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing this journey. Laurie, to you now. What is your favorite transactional analysis concept and why?
When I've been teaching coaches lately, what I found out is that as soon as I introduce the drama triangle, all kinds of things become clear. And I think the drama triangle is a way that synthesizes things, that brings things together rather than breaking them off into little pieces. So everybody seems to respond to that much more quickly. So I guess for the moment, that has to be my favorite. I've had different favorites at different times.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing this. And now back to Jonathan. You both work with the needs and response cycle. Can you explain briefly what it is? Because that's a big part of this workshop.
Well, it is a big part. It's a systematic way of looking at how dysfunctional behavior develops and where are logical interventions to do something about it. And it's just a model. It's like a flow chart which organizes history and current behavior and interventions in a way that makes sense so that somebody can see where they are in the whole system very quickly. it's a model that we developed. We made a fancy poster about it some years ago to describe it, and it's in our book Recovery from Codependency as well.
Mm-hmm.
The model is.
Yeah. And Laurie, how did you and Jonathan come up with this idea? Where did you recognize the need from what you experienced in your practice? Where did you see it?
First of all, Jackie Schiff said something absolutely revolutionary in one of her workshops. She said, people know what they need. And at the time, that was just unthinkable. And so we started playing around with it and asking people, and sure enough, they knew what they needed. And at that time, we were all very, very excited about passivity theory, about developmental theory, about helping people, figuring out what to do next. And things sort of arose spontaneously. We didn't go looking for something. It was like, if we put it together this way, it makes sense. Okay, all right, let's look at that. Let's try it. And it worked. And so we kept doing it from then on. A number of things came up that way.
Amazing. So the natural process reveals itself. Things
Yeah.
reveal itself. Wonderful. Back to Jonathan. Can you explain this concept from a TA perspective?
Not exactly, because what happens is that a TA perspective fits inside the model. So most of what's in TA language about games and rackets and scripts and stuff like that all fits inside a place in the model. You begin to see where that stuff comes from and how to intervene with it in a logical kind of way. So it isn't, it'd be hard to express in TA language because TA language is secondary to the model. I guess that's the best way I can put it. It'd be easier if you could see the model so I can show you where it goes. But that'll be part of the workshop.
Right. That'll be so interesting to see. Thank you. And Laurie, another question for you. What positive results do you see develop from the needs and response cycle? Can you give an example how you see this in when you're working with people?
I'm going to give a very, very simple example because we talk about substitute behavior. And substitute behavior is what we do instead of thinking about what we need and getting it. And so there's a substitute behavior that I used to have, which is standing in front of the refrigerator and sort of cataloging it, not really being hungry, but wanting something and not being sure what I wanted. And I sort of noted that, oh, that's the substitute. And whenever I found myself doing that, I started to say, well, now what do I really need? And very often it was I needed to rest, or I needed to go out for a walk, or some other physical need that I wasn't taking care of and was trying to fill with food because that was a longstanding habit in my family. That worked. We used that with smoking. It turned out smoking can cover all kinds of things. People can be angry, and instead of getting angry, they go for a cigarette. And it might be more appropriate to use the anger. Or we had one person who in a meeting was smoking and, asked about it. And she thought about it for a minute and she said, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. But she was sort of embarrassed to do it in the meeting. So that's a very superficial level. Very often we get much, much deeper, much more quickly.
I mean, these are examples that we all deal with every day. So that's just so interesting. Thank you for this. Back to Jonathan. The workshop is also going to be about logosynthesis. And can you explain what it is and how do you see it being effective with clients?
Logosynthesis was developed by Willem Lammers, who's a teaching member of ITAA and a scholar and therapist in Europe. And it's a system, it's a modification, it's a system of identifying where energy in a system is stuck and releasing that energy using the power of words. So it's a very, very simple and very deep process. It's an energy therapy. It's also a philosophy, a spiritual practice involved in trying to release the blocks that people have for connecting with their true selves. And the idea is that most psychological dysfunction has to do with frozen energy of one sort or another. Energy is either in flow or it's blocked. And when you identify where it's blocked and remove the block, whatever symptom is being produced by that goes away. It's very powerful, and when we first encountered it, we didn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But we've studied it and have used it quite a bit since then.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to summarize in a sentence or two. We'll give a brief demonstration in the workshop so that people get a sense of how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, but it all seems very, very interesting, and what you can use. You can see these kind of things in everybody. So it's very practical. It's all very, it seems very practical.
Yes.
So, yeah, the last question to both of you. So what will students walk away with, and will they be able to use these concepts, this work in their practice?
I think what I want them to walk away with is a sense of a whole way of looking at things that is generalized rather than specific, and to understand how many things have gone into producing that. And yes, they're definitely going to get tools to walk away with. They're going to get the needs response cycle, certainly. They're going to get a sample of logosynthesis and a way to get more information very quickly. And they're also going to get a lot of information about how some current research has been broadening our understanding of trauma and helping us figure out new ways to work with it.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, I'm certainly interested to take the workshop. I'll be there. I'm very excited. And I'm really hoping that many of the transactional analysis practitioners, students, everybody's welcome to this workshop. We can all learn from it. Also, if you want to just help your families. And so it was, yeah, the workshop is April 20th from 12 till 2, Healing the Inner Child Revisited, with Laurie Weiss and Jonathan Weiss. And I thank you so much, both of you, for being here today, explaining a little bit about the workshop. Thank you.
It's been delightful.
Glad
Thank
to
you.
be here.